Hello and welcome to Gasbbuteo Tabletop Football, where we are not at Gasbbuteo Stadium today. We're actually over here doing a bit of work on the behind the goal blue and white terrace that you may have seen in some of the previous videos. Now what we're doing here is something I actually started back in May when I was building the stadium. I was going to put some seats on. In the Thatcher stand that I've got, which is the main stand, you'll notice I've got a lot of fans in there sat on seats. They're seats I bought from a website called, I think it's called Gasbbuteo You've probably all seen it on there. If you haven't seen it, go and have a look. They've got some amazing stuff that is all 3D printed. And you can buy seats, all sorts of things, and they all come ready, and you just basically glue them in, and they look fantastic, and they're all very the same. So they're all standard, and it looks great. The problem with that is they are, if you buy in bulk of them, I think it can get a bit expensive. So they're all different prices depending on how long your row of seats is. But typically you're looking at, on average, say €1 for one row of seats. Less if they're smaller, or more or they're bigger, which is fine if you just buy a few like I did for the main stand. But if you're filling a whole terrace, that cost can add up quite quickly. So what I wanted to do, because the whole point of building Gasbbuteo Stadium was I could do it relatively inexpensively. As you know, we built the other stand and this one out of a box of MDF board that cost £6, so effectively one terrace cost £3. So that's all that cost. The spray was bits and pieces that I had lying around in the garage, and I wanted to put some seats in there, so I thought I'd have a go at making them myself, if that was indeed possible. Now what I found in, you can find these in any sort of hardware DIY shop. I went in B&Q and I found these metre length 45-degree angle plastic trim. Let me see if I can focus on this for you so you get the gist of it. That's what it looks like. Comes in metre lengths. Very inexpensive. I think these are about something like 75 pence for a metre length. It's obviously no cost at all. When you're cutting seats out of these at 6mm wide, you can get like sort of 200 seats out of this. So very, very inexpensive indeed. Obviously, you've got to measure that your seats are all accurate and neat and meet the specifications you want. So how did I do that? Well, I did this. So I built a little jig, really. Let me just bring up that to the camera and focus on it so you can have a look at that. So how this works is I normally put this into the vise, and then you slip in. Here's a bit of the trim, the plastic trim. You slip that in there. Let me show you how it goes in. So, it's 2 blocks of wood with a bit of MDF to create a sort of L cavity in there that you can slide that trim in, and then it goes up there. And then all you do is you get a little tenon saw. You basically cut through that gap. You grab the tenon saw just to demonstrate. You'd cut through there, and then what pops out is a little plastic seat, of which I've got plenty of them here. Now let me zoom in. So that's what you end up with, lots of them. Obviously there's a bit of flashing on the edge of that, so if you want to glue them in and want them to be neat, there is a bit of faffing around the old Stanley knife to make them clean. But once you've done that, you end up with a little seat which you can super glue into your terrace. Let's see if I can focus on that over there. Apologies for the camera going out of focus. So that's what we've been doing here. Now obviously all this cost you hardly anything. £3 to build the stadium. Perhaps at best another £1.50 to get enough plastic to make the seats. And then you'll end up with something that looks relatively convincing to put your fans on. What I'm going to do now is take the camera, excuse the wobbles here. Let's have a look what them seats look like. As you can see, I've super glued some in there. Try and keep them nice and neat. Now, how have I kept them so neat? I just pop you back on there. Very simple. I made this little bit of MDF really. So what this is, that width there is the width I want the seats to start away from the wall of the terrace. And this underneath, this sort of layered bit of MDF, let me bring it towards the camera and focus in for you, if that will. That's the height of one of the seating steps. So what that does, I just pop that on there, and then the first seat I glue in, put right next to it, and then subsequent seats go after that, and it keeps them all nice equidistant away from the edge, creating a little walk-up pathway, or simulation of one. So that's another little sort of tool I made when building Gasbbuteo Stadium. Another one which I've made, which was quite useful, is this. It's a little... Anyone guess what this is? If you go on the Facebook group, Stadium Builder Community, Gasbbuteo Stadium Builder Community or something it's called, I did put a picture on this back in the start of the summer. When I was building the terraces, I was obviously gluing this MDF together, and I wanted my steps to be nice and even and equidistant apart, so I created this little jig, and then when you glue them together, and obviously make sure that they all relatively match up. It's not completely foolproof this, but it's done a reasonable job of getting them all near enough, so from a distance they do look quite neat. And I built that out with a bit of MDF as well, so you know, little things you can do when if you want to have a go at building your own stadium. So yeah, super glue all the seats in as well, because you're obviously plastic onto painted MDF there. And hopefully, with a bit of work, because this is a bit of faffing about, I mean, you can spend a lot of money and get all these things and put them together quite quickly, or you can do them yourself and it costs you hardly anything. Obviously, if you take the cheaper route, you're going to have to put some effort in, and that's just general rule of life, isn't it? So, but yeah, once that's finished, I might take some photos of that or get a video and show you how it's ended up, and you can see what you think and maybe have a go at yourself. Until then, up the gas.